Hey everyone, and welcome to today's video. This is a bit of a vulnerable one for me today because I'm sharing a big part of me and my story that I have not really been in the habit of sharing with a lot of people, but I was inspired to share it because this is the 10-year anniversary of when I was hospitalized for my chronic nerve condition, and I also recently had a flare, and so I thought that it would be good to put together some information about who I am and my history and what I've learned about this disease, and maybe someone out there, is just getting a diagnosis or is struggling with it themselves and may feel a bit of comfort in hearing someone else's story that is sometimes very validating. I know I've been validated by hearing other people's stories throughout my journey with it. So yeah, anyway, let's just dive right in. As you can tell by the title, I have RND, which is Reflex Neurovascular Dystrophy. This is an amplified musculoskeletal pain syndrome. It is classed with the complex regional pain syndromes, so the CRPS. I just want to start this with a disclaimer that I am not a medical professional. I am just sharing my own information, my own story. I have shared some really great links in the description below about Dr. Sherry, and I'll talk a bit more about him in a second, and some other resources for families that are going through this as well. For me, I think I've always had RND. I remember being very small and thinking, why would anyone jump off the swing? Doesn't that hurt their legs? And waking up with swollen fingers and toes, but it was nothing to cause alarm. But when I was in the 6th grade, so about 12 or 13 years old, I severely hurt my foot. And I was in so much pain that they put a cast on it even though it wasn't broken. There wasn't any fracture in the x-ray, but I was like in such severe agony that they said, okay, we'll put a cast on it for a few weeks and then that should make the problem go away. But it never did. I continued to live my normal 6th grader life, going to gym class, dance classes after school, playing sports, and my ankle would hurt when I ran. I would have these sharp shooting pains and it would ache afterwards. It would swell for seemingly no reason at all. And over time, it spread to my knee and then my hip and then my other ankle and my other knee and my other hip. And slowly but surely, it started to kind of take over my body. I had these strange, unexplained symptoms of severe swelling, of deep, deep aches within my joints. I was also having some issues with my circulation where I called it the squeezy thing because it literally would feel like my foot was in a vice, and also like I was wearing a sock made out of an inside-out porcupine. That's how I used to describe it, because there was no words that I could come up with that could tell anyone how severely in pain I was. And people would be like, oh, your foot's just asleep. Have you tried wearing a bigger sock? Maybe your sock's too tight. And I'm like, no, people, this is a problem. Like, this is not normal. This cannot be normal. So yeah, it started off, quite slowly, and it grew over time to a point where it became quite debilitating. There was even a point where I tried going to a chiropractor for some relief with my back and hip pain, and for me, the adjustment was so severe that I ended up in bed for 10 days straight afterwards. I was in so much pain. And later I learned that giving in to that pain and allowing myself to stay in bed like that was the worst thing I could do. But I didn't know that yet. At that time, I was just seeing lots of doctors that were taking blood, they were doing bone scans, everything looked normal on their chart. And on the other hand of this whole situation, I was also actually a victim of isolation bullying at my school, which was very emotionally draining around that time. And so, I switched schools, I kept going to lots of different doctors, and, I wasn't getting better, but my emotional state was improving, and that in itself was really helpful. The pains kept evolving. It was getting to a point where certain clothes or the duvet being on my body was painful or just really, really uncomfortable. Some of the theories that doctors had were that I had Lyme disease, maybe I had arthritis. No one could quite put a finger on it. And the only thing that seemed to help me personally was massage. I started going for regular massages, and that really turned it around for me. I was able to better manage my pain through that regular exposure, and my family also very generously invested in a hot tub because I so enjoy taking long showers and baths. I got a lot of relief from the warmth. I was also relying on heating pads and things like that. So we got a hot tub, which was amazing, and it really worked well for my back. But I remember I couldn't go in if it was like snowing or raining, which now I think it's kind of fun, you know, after skiing, if you go in a hot tub while it's still snowing. But when my disease was at its height, it felt like needles on my face. When the rest of my body was so warm and my face was exposed, it was not a good combination. So it's quite interesting how extreme temperature really was a huge, you know, problem. I do think as I get older, I may need to consider living in a more temperate climate, but I'm just not ready to give up snow yet, so we'll see how that goes in the future. Now fast forward to 9th grade. I'm about 14 years old, and my amazing, wonderful mother, who has been hunting down every doctor she can, was up late one night, as the story goes, watching an interview, and a kid was describing what was wrong with me, and they said RND, and they were talking about Dr. Sherry in Philadelphia, and my mom said, "That's my kid." At least that's how I remember the story going. I'm sure she'll correct me in the comments if that's not how it went. If you haven't heard of Dr. Sherry, which I think if you're this far in, you probably have, he's really at the forefront of these musculoskeletal diseases in children. I've included his profile on the CHOP, the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia website below. And at the time, so we're talking about 2010, 2011, he had a student who was starting one of the rehab programs in the Children's Institute in Pittsburg. So my mother figured out a way to get me an appointment, and I was diagnosed in August 2010 officially with RND, and then it wasn't until February 2011 that I was able to get a bed in the program. So during that in-between time, I started outpatient physical therapy a few times a week. I was also continuing the massages on my own. I was also seeing a counselor to help with the psychological side of being chronically ill, which now as an adult I found is really an important element to maintain. At the time when I was in the Children's Institute, I was one of 4 patients with this type of disease doing this type of rehab program. So it was basically a 6-hour long day, every day, of a few hours of physical therapy, occupational therapy, talking with a counselor about the psychological effects of this disease, and also some swimming, which was great for me. I really enjoyed that. And then they'd give us homework of exercises to do in our bed, or in our rooms, I should say. And, you know, I tried to make the most of this day. I had so many amazing friends and family members that sent me lovely letters and magazines and books and nail polish and lots of great things to make it feel more homey and to pass the time. I was there for 2 weeks. My mom flew down with me and stayed with me for the first week, and then my parents switched off, and my dad drove down, stayed with me the second week, and drove me home, which was really great of them. Like, I mean, they took off a lot of time during when I was sick, and there were a lot of days when they couldn't take off, and they had to, you know, find people like my grandmother and my aunts and uncles to help you know, check in on me. And I really had such a good support system at the time, and I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have a family that was really pushing for my wellness. And so I'm really grateful for that. So I'm in a flare today. I feel like this flare has been kind of coming because it's like the year anniversary of COVID, which is very emotionally draining, and it's been showing in my skin and in my body. I've been waking up with swollen fingers and toes. So basically what happened is last night, I think I moved my head. I sleep with one of those foam shaped pillows, and I moved my head down so that the form of the pillow was not in my neck, and I've woken up in so much pain. Like, I literally, the cat was meowing at 7 for his breakfast, and I rolled over and immediately knew something was really wrong. And for most people, like a crick in the neck, it's fine. You take your ibuprofen, you do some stretching, you kind of muddle through the day, and you'll get over it. For me, it's literally made me down and out for the count. I have done a neck stretching video on YouTube. I have been sitting on the couch with a heating pad. Hendrik has very kindly massaged my neck and shoulder. I took a shower with like the massaging pointed water right on where it hurts, and I did some stretching, so I can now move my head this far to the right, and I'm in this position of in between where I know I need to move, I know I need to stretch, I know I need to push myself to work my body to be better, but I also am in so much pain and my body's pushing against it. But this is my real life. I just wanted to capture it. Here's my setup for the day. We've got a tray with the remote and my water and things so I can set it at arm's reach. And then I have like the Princess and the Pea pillow set up. This is my heating pad, and I have a towel, like a lumbar in my neck, so I literally don't have to hold myself up at all. But yeah, I've done all of those things to try to help my body, and I'm feeling slightly better. I'm up, I'm chatting, I'm smiling. It is now 12:26, and I've done all those things already. So I've been up not that long. I've cried 3 times, but I'm gonna get through it. I know I'm gonna be okay. It's gonna take some time. If it persists, I'm gonna look at maybe getting a professional massage. I've also tried like warming, like icy hot in places where it hurts, and that's helpful. But for now, I'm gonna just lay low, watch some movies, and it's kind of disheartening because it's been a long time since I've been down and out for a day because of RND, but this is my life, it's real life, and I hope someone out there who's feeling this way may feel less alone watching this, because it can be very isolating to be in pain, and even though people want to help you, they can't see it and they can't understand it, and they do their best, and you're so grateful, but you also don't want to be a burden. And it's very easy to feel like people think you're making it up or you're faking it, and I've been there. I mean, as you can see, I've experienced a spectrum of emotions with all of those things, but I'm gonna sit down now and stop talking because it's actually hurting my throat because I'm in so much pain, and my body's trying to hold my neck so still that it's hurting my throat to talk. So yeah. And I actually have a second video all about flares and how I manage them coming out soon. So you know, if you're in that same sort of a boat or you're dealing with chronic illness flares, I hope I can help you somehow. At the very least, I want you to see that, you know, there is life after the, you know, the hardest moment. And, you know, I lived through my hardest moment when I was 14 years old, and that's really helped shape me into who I am. And, you know, I really encourage you to maybe check out some of my other videos. You will see I have a wonderful husband. I live a beautiful life. I love to go hiking and traveling. I'm planning a big, huge wedding, and I'm gonna wear heels and dance the night away, and those were things that I didn't anticipate doing at one point. There was a time when I was laying in bed in so much pain, thinking, oh my God, I can't even get up and walk to the bathroom without having this immense pain. How would I ever have kids? Like, you know, those were thoughts that I had in my adolescence, and I'm so grateful that I've been able to get through that and get past that. And I hope that, you know, maybe if you're dealing with it, or you know someone who is, that you can help see the light at the end of the tunnel and do what you can to keep your spirits up and your mind busy, because your body sometimes will let you down. Thank you all so much for being here. If you have any questions, please do comment them below, or feel free to DM me on Instagram. I really, honestly, if this video reaches anyone who's like desperately wondering how to, you know, live a life with a chronic disease like this, I hope that you see that, you know, there is possibility beyond it. I'm not cured. I never will be. I will always have RND. I will always be in situations where I have to think, is that going to cause me pain? Even though other people don't ever have that thought cross their mind. But it doesn't mean that it stops me, and it doesn't mean that it defines me. So anyway, yeah, I guess that's all for today. I hope to connect with you very soon, and thanks again for being here. Bye.